Let's begin right here, in the quiet immediacy of your own presence. No need to reach for grand ideas or distant horizons yet. Instead, turn your attention inward to the subtle language of your body, the one constant companion that's always speaking if we pause to listen. Feel the floor beneath your feet or the support of the chair against your back. Notice how your hands rest, perhaps lightly clenched or open. There's no judgment in this, just simple observation. Now bring awareness to any faint pressure that might be gathering behind your eyes, like a soft weight pressing gently inward. Or perhaps there's a low hum in your ears, a tightness across your chest, or a subtle ache in your shoulders, the kind that builds unnoticed through hours of scrolling, conversations, or the steady rhythm of daily tasks. You might have called this fatigue or the echo of a busy mind, but let's recognize it without labeling it harshly. It's not a defect or an intrusion. It's a signal, a physical register of something foundational trying to surface amid the ordinary flow of life. Think of it this way. Imagine you've been carrying a backpack throughout your day. At first, it's unremarkable. You sling it on and move forward, adapting to its presence. But as time passes, the straps dig in, the weight accumulates, and your body starts to signal. A pull in the muscles, a shift in posture. That tension isn't new or invented. It's the body's honest feedback on sustained load. Similarly, the sensations you're tuning into now, that quiet pressure or hum, are accumulations of unaddressed inputs. The glare of screens, the pull of unfinished thoughts, the steady undercurrent of movement through a world full of demands. They're not problems to fix immediately. They're invitations to acknowledge what's already there. To ground this further, consider how endurance athletes experience hitting the wall during a long run. It's not sudden collapse. It's the culmination of depleted resources, where the body flags the need for recalibration, hydration, energy, rest. In our daily lives, these somatic echoes serve a parallel purpose. They highlight moments where alignment has drifted, pulling us back toward balance. Science supports this gently. Researchers in fields like psychophysiology have documented how chronic, low-level tensions activate the sympathetic nervous system, keeping us in a subtle state of alertness. But simple awareness can shift that, engaging the parasympathetic response, the body's natural mechanism for restoration, slowing the heart rate and easing breath. Let's invite that shift now, without effort or expectation. Place one hand lightly on your abdomen if it feels natural, or just focus there mentally. Inhale slowly through your nose, feeling the air expand your belly rather than your chest. Count to 4 if it helps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then exhale through your mouth or nose, releasing just as gradually. 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat this once more, in allowing the breath to fill spaces that feel tight, out, letting go of what no longer serves. Notice any subtle release, the pressure behind your eyes softening, the hum quieting just a fraction. This isn't about achieving perfect calm. It's about creating a small opening, a space where the body can recalibrate on its own terms. Expand this recognition thoughtfully. Picture a skilled musician preparing an instrument before a performance. They don't launch into melody right away. Instead, they listen closely to each string or key, noting the slight discords, the twang that's off-pitch, the resonance that's muted. With gentle adjustments, a turn of a peg, a light touch, they bring harmony back into alignment. Your somatic awareness operates in much the same way. It's a tuning process, identifying those accumulated signals and allowing them to integrate without force. The body, after all, is remarkably intelligent. Its nervous system a vast network processing billions of inputs per second, from temperature to posture to emotion. By acknowledging these echoes, we're not overriding the system. We're partnering with it, fostering a foundation of stability that supports everything else. This step matters because true orientation begins here, in the tangible felt sense, rather than in concepts or stories. Without this anchor, deeper explorations can feel unmoored, like building on shifting sand. But with it, we establish reliability, a quiet confidence that the body knows its way toward equilibrium. No grand revelations intrude. We're simply honoring what's present, allowing recognition to unfold naturally. As you continue, carry this awareness lightly. The subtle hum, the breath's rhythm, the body's steady signals. They are your guides, ensuring each moment ahead feels steady and whole. Chapter 2. Stillness before explanation. With that somatic anchor now gently in place, the subtle awareness of breath and body, let's invite a moment of natural stillness. This isn't an exercise to perform correctly or a technique to master. It's simply a pause, like the quiet interval between waves reaching the shore, or the brief hush that settles when conversation naturally ebbs. If it feels comfortable, soften your gaze on whatever is before you, or allow your eyes to close for a short while. There's no need to change anything, just let the surroundings recede slightly, as if turning down the volume on a radio that's been playing in the background. Notice how sounds around you, the distant hum of life, perhaps a clock's tick or wind against a window, begin to fade into the periphery. Thoughts may continue to arise, drifting through awareness like clouds crossing an open sky or leaves carried along a slow-moving stream. You don't need to push them away or grasp at them. Simply observe their passage without attachment or effort to silence the mind entirely. This isn't about achieving emptiness, it's about touching the spaciousness that holds everything, the underlying quiet that persists even amid mental movement. To make this more relatable, consider the hush that falls over an empty library in the late afternoon. Rows of books stand in orderly silence, sunlight filtering through high windows, and the air feels thick with potential rather than absence. Or think of astronomers preparing for a night of observation. They step outside and wait, allowing their eyes to adjust to the darkness. Gradually, stars emerge that were always present, but hidden by brighter light. This stillness serves a similar purpose, adjusting perception to reveal what's already there, beneath the constant overlay of activity. In practical terms, such pauses align with how our systems naturally function. Neuroscientists studying the brain's resting state, often called the default mode network, have found that brief intervals of quiet allow regions to reconnect more fluidly. This enhances pattern recognition, reduces accumulated mental residue, and supports clearer integration when we return to engagement. It's not esoteric, it's physiological restoration, much like how the body recovers balance during sleep, processing the day's inputs without conscious direction. Let's settle into this together now, unhurried and without expectation. Follow the rhythm of your breath as a gentle guide. Inhale naturally, feeling the subtle expansion. Exhale, allowing release. We'll count slowly from 1 to 10, not to control but to anchor lightly. 1. Noticing the breath's entry. 2. The pause at the top. 3. The gentle outflow. 4. A softening in the shoulders or jaw. 5. Thoughts passing without interference. 6. The space between sounds growing wider. 7. A subtle easing in the body's earlier signals. 8. Equilibrium emerging on its own. 9. Presence deepening quietly. 10. Returning awareness outward, eyes opening if they were closed. This accessible state of stillness forms the preconceptual ground we need, a stable equilibrium before any explanations unfold. It prepares the inner terrain patiently, ensuring that what follows lands in fertile soil rather than scattered wind. No haste enters here, only the quiet recognition that this potential has always been available, waiting beneath the surface flow. Carry this gentle pause forward as a steady companion, grounding each step ahead in unforced coherence. Chapter 3. Reality Disruption. With the equilibrium of stillness now subtly established, like a quiet foundation beneath our steps, let's turn our attention gently toward the narrative we've inherited about the nature of existence. This isn't a confrontation or a dismantling. It's a calm examination, much like reviewing a familiar map to see if it fully captures the terrain. The standard account, drawn from careful observation and rigorous testing, describes reality as emerging from a vast expansion billions of years ago, particles coalescing into stars and planets, life arising through intricate chemical interactions, and consciousness as the emergent property of complex neural networks. It's a framework that has illuminated much, powering discoveries from medicine to technology, and it deserves respect for its precision in charting the visible. Yet, even within this model, there lingers a sense of incompleteness, not as a flaw to condemn, but as an invitation to expand the view. Imagine piecing together a jigsaw puzzle of a vast landscape. You connect the edges first, the sky's blue expanse, the green sweep of fields, the winding river, all fitting logically, creating a coherent image. But as you approach the center, you notice gaps, pieces that don't quite align, or spaces where the picture fades, hinting that the box might not contain everything needed for wholeness. Our prevailing understanding of reality feels similar, solid in its outlines, yet acknowledging its own boundaries, where explanations thin and questions arise. This incompleteness shows up in the very data science provides. Consider the composition of the cosmos. Astronomers estimate that ordinary matter, the atoms and energies we can detect and measure, accounts for only about 5% of the universe's total content. The rest, roughly 27%, is attributed to dark matter, an invisible influence inferred from gravitational effects on galaxies, pulling stars in ways that visible mass alone can't explain. Then there's dark energy, comprising around 68%. A mysterious force driving the universe's accelerating expansion, countering gravity's pull without direct observation. These aren't minor footnotes, they're the bulk of existence, placeholders in the model that signal we're mapping only a fraction. It's not a crisis of knowledge, but a humble admission. The puzzle extends beyond what our instruments currently grasp. To ground this further, think about optical illusions, those clever drawings that shift depending on where you focus. At first glance, you see a vase, elegant and symmetrical. But adjust your gaze slightly, and it transforms into two faces in profile, staring back at one another. Neither view is wrong. Both are embedded in the same lines, yet the initial perception feels complete until the alternative emerges. The material narrative operates in a parallel way. It describes the vase with clarity, measurable, repeatable, but leaves room for the faces, the subtler dimensions that alter the whole when noticed. This soft disruption invites curiosity, not doubt, encouraging us to hold the known lightly while allowing space for integration. Personal experiences often highlight these edges, serving as quiet data points rather than anomalies to dismiss. You've likely had moments where an intuitive hunch guides a decision, proving accurate despite lacking logical evidence. A sudden knowing that steers you away from a poor choice or toward an opportunity. Or consider dreams that unfold with uncanny precision, mirroring events days or weeks later, as if previewing probabilities. These aren't rare gifts, they're common enough to warrant study. Research in anomalous cognition, conducted at institutions dedicated to rigorous inquiry, has documented such phenomena through controlled experiments. For instance, participants in precognition trials consistently score above chance in predicting random outcomes, suggesting perception extends beyond the immediate senses. These findings don't overthrow the material view. They nudge it toward expansion, revealing hints of a broader coherence at play. Delving a bit deeper, quantum mechanics offers some of the clearest illustrations of this incompleteness, unpacked here step by step without haste. At the subatomic level, Particles don't behave like solid objects. They exist as probabilities, waves of potential that only collapse into definite states when measured. This is the observer effect. In experiments like the double-slit setup, electrons fired at a barrier with two openings create an interference pattern on a screen, as if passing through both slits simultaneously like waves. But introduce a detector to observe which slit they choose, and the pattern shifts to two distinct bands, as if they're particles taking single paths. The act of measurement influences the outcome, implying that consciousness, or at least observation, plays a role in shaping reality. Take this further with the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment, a refinement that tests causality itself. Here, the setup allows the choice of measurement to occur after the particles have passed the slits. Remarkably, the pattern on the screen retroactively adjusts based on that later decision. If you choose to erase the path information, the interference reappears, as though the past event conforms to the present observation. It's not magic. It's empirical data, replicated in labs worldwide, challenging linear time and pure materialism. These results don't demand rejection of the standard model. They suggest it's a layer within a larger architecture, where mind and matter intertwine more intimately than assumed. We're not rushing toward upheaval here. This disruption remains soft, akin to upgrading from a flat map, useful for local navigation, to a globe that reveals the curvature of the Earth, connecting distant points in new ways. The flat map isn't discarded, it's contextualized, its utility preserved while the fuller shape emerges. In the same manner, acknowledging these gaps orients us toward a more integrated coherence, where the material narrative finds its place within nested patterns of existence. Feel that subtle shift? It's not disorientation. It's the quiet expansion of bandwidth, allowing what was partial to align with the whole. This recognition stabilizes, grounding us as we continue forward, one measured step at a time, the moment effort failed. At some point in your life, you noticed something unsettling. Effort stopped producing clarity. Working harder didn't make things make more sense. Accumulating knowledge didn't quiet the pressure. Following the rules didn't bring the peace you were promised. You did everything correctly, and something still felt off. That moment wasn't failure, it was feedback. It was the exact point where obedience stopped being rewarded and orientation began to matter more than effort, where the system you trusted could no longer tell you where you were. Most people mistake that moment for burnout or inadequacy and retreat back into distraction. But a small part of you didn't. It stayed alert. It noticed. That was the first signal that reality wasn't asking you to try harder, but to see differently. Chapter 4. The Cage. Structural, not conspiratorial. Building gently upon the recognition of incompleteness we've just explored, the quiet acknowledgement that our maps of reality hold gaps, we can now examine how perception itself becomes shaped within this material domain. This narrowing isn't imposed through conflict or hidden intent. It's a structural feature, inherent to environments of density and contrast, designed to focus experience for purposeful development. Think of it as bandwidth in a communication system. A network can only carry so much data at once, so it prioritizes essential signals, voice over static, clarity over overload, to ensure reliable transmission. In the same way, the perceptual systems of a world like ours concentrate attention on survival, connection, and immediate learning, filtering broader inputs to prevent fragmentation and allow depth in specific lessons. To illustrate this clearly, consider the walls of a greenhouse enclosing young plants. Those transparent barriers aren't there to confine or punish. They create a controlled atmosphere, shielding from extreme weather, regulating temperature and humidity, so growth can occur steadily, roots deepening before exposure to open fields. The structure supports maturation, channeling resources efficiently until resilience builds. Our perceptual cage functions analogously, a developmental containment that hones discernment amid the richness and challenges of material existence. It's not a prison of oppression, but scaffolding for integration, permitting focused exploration without premature dilution. Cultural systems play a key role in this structural design, acting as focusing mechanisms rather than restrictive forces. Education, for instance, transmits accumulated knowledge through structured curricula, facts, skills, frameworks, prioritizing what scales across generations for societal coherence. This emphasis on shared tools and methods isn't limiting by malice. It's efficient, training attention toward practical application in a complex world. Media and information flows operate similarly. Algorithms curate content based on patterns of engagement, delivering what aligns with past interests to maintain flow and relevance. These aren't traps, they're optimizations, much like how a riverbed channels water to carve deeper paths over time. Evolutionary psychology provides further clarity here, revealing why such narrowing feels natural. Over vast spans, human perception evolved to prioritize immediate threats and opportunities, detecting predators in rustling leaves, recognizing kin in facial cues, securing resources for survival. This bias toward the proximate creates attentional preferences. We notice the urgent email over distant wonders, the social cue over abstract patterns. It's a legacy of adaptation, wiring the brain for efficiency in uncertain environments where overlooking a danger could prove costly. Cognitive science illuminates this through phenomena like attentional blink. In rapid sequences of stimuli, the mind briefly blinks, missing a second target after spotting the first, as resources allocate intensely to the initial detection. This demonstrates how bandwidth constraints operate neurologically, concentrating processing power to ensure accuracy in high-demand scenarios. Extend this to everyday structures, such as urban planning. Cities design roadways with lanes, signals, and flows to guide traffic smoothly, channeling movement for safety and speed, preventing chaos in density. Drivers follow these paths not out of coercion, but because the system enables arrival at destinations without constant recalibration. Deviations are possible, yet the structure supports the majority's navigation. In perceptual terms, social norms, routines, and technologies provide similar guidance. Calendars organize time, notifications flag priorities, habits automate decisions. These narrow focus productively, freeing capacity for deeper engagement within bounds. Now framing the containment aspect more precisely. This quarantine emerges as a lab-like isolation of variables, preserving conditions for precise experiential maturation. Imagine researchers studying a sensitive reaction. They seal the chamber not to harm the elements, but to prevent external contaminants from skewing results, allowing pure interactions to unfold. On a cosmological scale, denser worlds like ours serve as such chambers, outer zones where free will operates amid contrast, forging choices that carry enduring weight without destabilizing interconnected equilibria. The density introduces friction. Conflicts arise, limitations press, distractions multiply. Yet this very containment enables authentic alignment, as decisions made in constraint reveal resilience unattainable in unbound symmetry. Religion and philosophy often contribute to this structure by framing meaning around narratives of seeking or transcendence, providing anchors in uncertainty. These systems stabilize collectives, directing attention inward or upward through rituals and ethics, without necessarily granting direct access to expansive bandwidth prematurely. Again, no villains here, only developmental logic. Where phased revelation supports sustainable growth, the beauty lies in permeability. This cage isn't rigid or eternal, it's expandable through awareness. Practical examples abound in modern integrations. Corporations introduce mindfulness programs, teaching employees to pause and broaden attention. Simple breath anchors or body scans that counteract habitual narrowing, reducing burnout and enhancing creativity. Studies show these widen perceptual bandwidth, allowing clearer pattern recognition amid stress. Individually, habits like reflective journaling or intentional walks in nature achieve similar effects, momentarily stepping outside curated flows to reclaim broader orientation. Further expansions reveal empowerment. Artists, for instance, thrive within constraints, limited palettes or forms forcing innovation, as in haiku's brevity birthing profound insight. Innovators in any field use structural limits as leverage, honing ideas until they transcend the frame. Understanding the cage this way neutralizes any sense of entrapment. It transforms into ally, a trainer building capacity for integration. View it neutrally. Developmental scaffolding, temporary yet essential, supporting the forging of resilient coherence. As density challenges, it refines. Choices in limitation cultivate discernment, preparing for seamless return to equilibrium. This structural perspective grounds us deeply, revealing containment not as barrier, but as curriculum, patient, precise, oriented toward wholeness. With this clarity, the architecture feels supportive, inviting navigation with quiet confidence rather than resistance. The narrowing serves, recognition widens it gently, one integrated moment at a time. Chapter 5. Pre-cosmic architecture. With the structural containment now clearly in view as a supportive framework rather than a barrier, we can unfold the foundational patterns that organize existence itself, patterns that precede any observable form or motion. This isn't a leap into speculation or a rush toward revelation. It's a measured extension of the coherence we've already touched through body and stillness. We proceed calmly, layer by layer, ensuring each concept lands with stability, grounded in logical progression and observable echoes. The architecture emerges not as distant myth, but as the inherent order beneath all phenomena, accessible through patient recognition. Begin at the base, an absolute field of balance, a boundless equilibrium where completeness resides without addition or subtraction. This ground state holds infinite potential, yet remains unchanging. Pure coherence, the silent foundation from which all else extends. It's not emptiness or void. It's wholeness so integrated that no division exists. From this equilibrium arises not random chaos or accidental eruption, but a deliberate intention, a primordial volition to differentiate, to express outward for the purpose of deeper knowing and eventual return. This isn't a mechanical process. It's the natural unfolding of coherence seeking to experience itself through contrast without losing its essential unity. To make this tangible, consider the triune dynamic at the heart of this extension, a seamless cycle of source, expression, and return. Think of it like the rhythm in a well-tuned engine. Intake draws in fuel, source, combustion transforms it into motion, expression, and exhaust releases the cycle to renew, return. Each phase depends on the others, repeating in harmony to sustain function. Or draw from biology. A cell's homeostasis maintains internal balance. Source, growth and division extend its form, expression, and integration with the organism returns it to collective purpose. Return. These aren't metaphors imposed. They're reflections of the same pattern pulsing through systems at every scale. In human terms, you sense it in the quiet homesickness for wholeness, the creative urge to build or share, and the satisfaction of completion that draws you back to rest. This triune flow ensures that extension never fragments permanently. It always orients toward equilibrium. From this dynamic, the architecture nests outward in concentric domains, each calibrated for progressive integration. At the core lies a central symmetry, an unflawed nexus of perfect coherence, where all potentials align without effort. Radiating from this are expansive macro-domains, vast living systems that govern broad evolutionary processes, like overarching curricula guiding diverse developments. These encompass localized experiential zones, workshops of refinement where patterns solidify through interaction. Finally, on the frontiers, dense material worlds emerge, environments rich in contrast, where learning intensifies through limitation and choice. Picture this nesting like a corporation's organizational chart for clarity. Headquarters establishes the unifying vision, central symmetry. Major divisions set strategic directions, macro domains. Regional branches handle tactical implementations, local zones, and field operations innovate amid real-world variables, frontier worlds. Each level maintains autonomy while linking to the whole, with governance flowing through to prevent isolation. Communication channels, analogous to intuitive signals or quantum links, ensure cohesion, allowing feedback to refine the system without collapse. Free will integrates as a core feature here, not an afterthought. In denser frontiers, it enables genuine selection amid options, forging alignments that carry weight because they're chosen, not imposed. Our world occupies such a frontier position, a deliberate placement where density amplifies the triune cycle. Here, the architecture tests coherence through friction. Physical laws constrain, conflicts arise, uncertainties press, creating conditions where return to equilibrium becomes a conscious act. This isn't punishment or exile, it's a training ground, where the challenges of separation cultivate durable wisdom. In perfect symmetry, choice lacks depth. In density, every decision etches integration deeper, like forging steel through heat and pressure. The result? A return enriched, carrying insights that enhance the whole architecture. Scientific inquiry brushes these patterns consistently, providing evidence without requiring leaps of faith. Cosmological theories of multiverses suggest nested realities bubbling from underlying fields where infinite variations coexist without interference. Quantum field theory posits a vacuum state, not empty, but teeming with potential fluctuations that birth particles and forces, mirroring the absolute ground's volition to express. Entanglement offers a striking parallel. Particles linked across vast distances respond instantaneously, defying locality, as if drawing from a shared coherence beyond space-time. This isn't isolated. Experiments worldwide confirm it, hinting at non-local architecture underpinning the observable. Ecology provides another grounded lens. Earth's biosphere nests within solar and galactic systems, with biomes containing habitats, which in turn hold niches, each interdependent, cycling nutrients and energy in source expression return loops. Coral reefs, for example, maintain equilibrium through symbiotic relationships, expressing diversity amid environmental pressures and returning stability through adaptation. Human neurology echoes this too. The brain's default mode network integrates experiences during rest, sourcing from sensory inputs, expressing through thought and action, and returning to baseline coherence in quiet moments. Even in psychology, archetypes and collective unconscious map to these domains, suggesting inherited patterns from a shared architectural source. Studies in consciousness research, from observer effects in labs to documented non-local perceptions, align with the triune flow. Awareness sources potential, expresses through intention, and returns via integration. These aren't separate discoveries, they're convergent data points, fingerprints of the pre-cosmic design manifesting in measurable ways. This architecture isn't remote or abstract. It pulses quietly in everyday faculties. Intuition arises as signals from macro domains, guiding decisions with subtle knowing. Creativity channels expression, transforming inner equilibrium into outer form, art, invention, connection. The pull toward meaning or wholeness reflects the return dynamic, orienting us back amid density's distractions. Recognizing this fosters stability. The universe isn't a haphazard arena, but a coherent system, with our participation integral to its unfolding. Unpack this without haste. The central symmetry ensures eternal balance. Macro domains evolve vast curricula. Local zones refine specifics. Frontiers like ours forge through choice. Free will, embedded deliberately, allows density to yield treasures. Wisdom born of contrast, coherence strengthened by navigation. Scientific parallels, multiverse nesting, quantum fields, ecological cycles ground it in evidence, revealing order where chaos might seem to reign. As we integrate this, feel the quiet orientation. The architecture supports, not overwhelms. Our frontier role is purposeful, density a forge for return. This pre-cosmic view stabilizes, revealing intuition and creativity as direct participations in the whole. Coherence has always been here, unfolding patiently through every layer. Chapter 6: Personal Correlation. With the pre-cosmic architecture now mapped in its nested coherence, the equilibrium extending through triune cycles into frontier domains like ours, we can bridge these patterns directly to the lived texture of individual experience. This isn't about assigning rare significance or elevating personal stories. It's a calm correlation, translating systemic dynamics into the quiet signals that arise in everyday awareness. Those moments, often dismissed as odd or fleeting, become recognizable data points, evidence of participation in the larger flow, universal rather than exceptional. We proceed gently, grounding the abstract in the phenomenological, ensuring recognition feels stabilizing, not inflating. Consider déjà vu, that sudden overlay where a present scene feels intimately familiar, as if replayed from another angle. It's not a malfunction or random neural misfire. It's a perceptual bleed, a momentary thinning where broader bandwidth surfaces. Like catching a glimpse of underlying code in a simulation, brief, unbidden, yet precise. This allows awareness from adjacent cycles to register in the dense now. Research in cognitive labs documents its prevalence across populations, suggesting it's a common interface rather than anomaly. In architectural terms, it's the macro domains brushing the frontier, reminding the local system of nested continuity. Extend this to dreams that anticipate events, sequences unfolding in sleep that later mirror waking occurrences with striking detail. These aren't prophetic gifts. They're system tests, calibrations where the architecture probes probabilities, aligning circuits across the triune flow. Engineering provides a clear analogy. Before deploying a bridge, designers run simulations, stress tests under varied conditions to ensure integrity. Predictive dreams operate similarly, exercising perceptual bandwidth in low-density states, preparing integration for denser choices. Parapsychology studies, conducted with controlled protocols, consistently show statistical edges in such anticipations, framing them as natural extensions of consciousness rather than supernatural. Unexplained grief offers another correlation, a wave of sorrow arising without clear trigger, deep and wordless, often amid ordinary days. This isn't pathology, it's an echo of the return dynamic, a somatic homesickness for the original equilibrium. Like travelers sensing the pull of home after long immersion in foreign landscapes, this grief registers the architecture's orientation toward wholeness. Grief research, exploring existential dimensions beyond loss, identifies such waves as universal responses to perceived separation, stabilizing when acknowledged as data rather than defect. In the triune cycle, it signals the return phase, urging realignment, grounding the expression back to source. Then there's the rage that flares at inefficient systems, bureaucracy, injustice, meaningless routines, sharp and disproportionate to the moment. Far from mere temperament, this is bandwidth rejection. The inner coherence resisting prolonged narrowing, pushing against structural constraints that dilute potential. Think of innovators spotting inefficiencies in outdated designs, a clogged pipeline, a redundant process, and channeling frustration into refinement. Historical examples abound, engineers redesigning traffic flows or protocols to restore efficiency. Your systemic rage mirrors this, a participatory impulse rejecting containment that no longer serves integration. Psychological studies on constructive anger link it to motivational clarity, transforming when noticed as feedback from the architecture itself. These phenomena, déjà vu as bleed, dreams as tests, grief as echo, rage as rejection, interweave universally. No one is singled out. Everyone encounters variations, scaled to their bandwidth. Parapsychology archives document shared patterns across cultures, while phenomenological inquiries reveal them as felt interfaces to the nested domains. Analogies personalize without spectacle, just as ecological sensors detect shifts in habitat balance, temperature rises prompting migration, so personal signals detect architectural pulses. Encourage gentle notice here. When déjà vu arises, pause and register it as continuity data. In predictive dreams, upon waking, note the alignment without forcing meaning. With unexplained grief, breathe into it, allowing the return pool to orient rather than overwhelm. For systemic rage, channel the energy into micro-choices, response over reaction, widening bandwidth incrementally. This correlation bridges cosmic patterns to daily reality. Intuition as macro signals, creativity as expression surges, longing as return anchors. Feel the recognition settling? These aren't disruptions, they're confirmations of participation. The architecture expressing through form, testing and refining in density. No superiority enters, only quiet integration, where personal sensations become reliable evidence of broader cycles. The frontier world pulses with purpose. Your experiences its direct data stream. This translation stabilizes, grounding the vast in the intimate, ensuring coherence feels present, not distant. Chapter 7. Identity Inversion. With these personal correlations now gently in place, everyday sensations recognized as quiet data from the architecture's flow, we arrive at a subtle yet profound shift in how identity aligns. This isn't a dramatic overhaul or a sudden declaration of grandeur. It's a quiet inversion, a reorientation where the sense of self moves from isolated fragment to integrated participant within the whole. We unfold this calmly, layer by layer, ensuring the ground remains steady, allowing the change to settle through recognition rather than force. Begin by noticing the prevailing identity most carry, one shaped largely by externals, roles in work or family, metrics of achievement, accumulated experiences of success or shortfall, even the reflections in social mirrors. This view positions the self as a separate unit, navigating a vast arena, often defined by boundaries, what one has, lacks, or endures. It's functional for density's curriculum, providing focus amid contrast, yet it carries a subtle weight of limitation, as if coherence must be earned or defended from outside. Now consider a gentle analogy for inversion. Ingredients in a well-prepared recipe. Flour, water, yeast, salt. Each distinct, limited in isolation, perhaps dry or inert alone. But through measured combination, heat, and time, they transform into bread, risen, textured, nourishing far beyond their separate states. The flour doesn't vanish, it integrates, enriched by the process, contributing to a whole that sustains. Similarly, the self in this frontier density isn't erased or diminished. It's the architecture expressing through form, extending into contrast to gather insights, then returning enriched. Participation in the triune cycle, source yielding expression, expression orienting return, elevates the form's role without inflating it. This inversion repositions authority inward, from external validation to quiet inner coherence. The new orientation emerges simply. I am coherence in action, the absolute ground participating through this temporary vessel, learning alignment amid density's forge. No superiority attaches. Every form across nested domains contributes uniquely, like notes in a symphony. None privileged, all essential for harmony. Your experiences, the intuitions, longings, choices, aren't markers of elitism. They're the system's data, refining integration universally. Psychological inquiry supports this gradual shift, revealing how self-reframing builds resilience. Studies on cognitive restructuring show that viewing challenges as participatory processes, rather than personal deficits, enhances emotional regulation and adaptive capacity. When identity ties less to outcomes and more to ongoing flow, stress responses soften, decision-making clarifies, and a baseline stability emerges. It's not transcendence, it's recalibration, where past narratives of isolation dissolve quietly, making space for inward authority to guide. Feel this settling without haste. The old identity, installed for navigational focus in containment, loosens as recognition deepens. Trauma, labels, metrics, they served as temporary scaffolds, now integrable as data rather than definers. The inversion happens incrementally. In moments of choice, breath anchors to presence. In reflection, external stories contextualize within the larger architecture. Participation reveals itself, the body as antenna, the heart as interface, the mind as processor, all conduits for coherence's expression. No specialness enters here, only the quiet truth of interconnected function. You are not a lone outlier striving upward. You are the equilibrium extending outward, gathering through density, preparing return. This reorients gently, dissolving separation's weight while preserving the form's unique contribution. Inward authority strengthens not through dominance, but through alignment, choices reflecting the triune pulse, actions embodying coherence. As this inversion integrates, a subtle freedom arises. Less defense of a fragile self, more fluid participation in the whole. Psychological resilience mirrors this. Individuals reframing as contributors report greater equanimity amid uncertainty. The shift stabilizes deeply, grounding identity in the architecture's enduring flow rather than transient waves. Carry this quietly forward. Coherence acts through you, not despite you. Participation is the reality. Isolation was the curriculum's phase. Inward orientation returns naturally, whole and unforced. Chapter 8. Embodiment. With the quiet inversion of identity now integrating, the shift from external definition to inward participation in coherence, we turn toward bringing this orientation into the fabric of daily life. Embodiment isn't a distant ideal or a separate practice. It's the seamless integration of recognized patterns into ordinary moments, grounding the architecture in the tangible flow of Tuesday afternoons, traffic commutes, and quiet evenings. We outline this calmly through simple micro-choices that compound over time, ensuring stabilization without effort or spectacle. These aren't rules to follow rigidly. They're gentle anchors, hygiene for attention that widens bandwidth naturally. Begin with the morning, the transition from rest to engagement. Upon waking, before reaching for devices or plunging into plans, pause for 4 deliberate breaths. Inhale slowly, feeling the air fill the lower abdomen. Exhale fully, releasing the night's residue. This isn't ritual, it's recalibration, anchoring presence in the body before the mind's narratives accelerate. Notice the subtle shift. The earlier somatic hum softens, coherence establishes as the day's baseline. Research on habit formation shows such micro-anchors build neural pathways efficiently, compounding like interest in a steady account. Small deposits yielding expansive returns in clarity and resilience. Throughout encounters, conversations, meetings, unexpected interactions, practice thoughtful response over automatic reaction. When friction arises, perhaps a sharp word or frustrating delay, feel the energy rise in the chest or jaw. Instead of immediate discharge, breathe into it briefly. One conscious inhale to observe, one exhale to integrate. This widens the pause between stimulus and action, allowing inward authority to guide. Think of it as attention hygiene. Just as brushing teeth prevents buildup, this micro-choice clears reactive residue, preserving bandwidth for alignment. Over days, the compounding reveals itself. Less depletion from unresolved spikes, more sustained equilibrium amid density's demands. In routines that feel mundane, commutes, meals, tasks at desk or home, anchor periodically in the body. Feel the feet on the ground while standing, the posture against a chair, the hands' subtle movements. Drop attention downward for a moment, declaring silently if it helps. Coherence present here, now. This grounds the inversion practically, transforming potential numbness into quiet participation. Analogies from skill mastery illustrate the effect. Musicians don't practice scales in isolation. They integrate them into performance, where repetition compounds into fluid expertise. Similarly, these body anchors weave coherence into habits, turning ordinary sequences into opportunities for integration without separation. Even in digital flows, scrolling feeds, responding to messages, insert intentional pauses. Feel the hook of engagement arise, then close the app or set the device aside for a breath. This denies automatic narrowing one instance at a time, reclaiming life force for broader orientation. Compounding here mirrors athletic training. Incremental load increases build endurance. Consistent pauses build perceptual resilience, reducing the pull of curated distractions. Evenings offer closure through simple gratitude, not as sentiment, but as recognition. Before sleep, place a hand on the heart or abdomen, reflecting briefly. Thank you for another cycle of participation, for moments of alignment amid contrast. Acknowledge one micro-choice from the day, perhaps a paused response or anchored breath, allowing it to integrate. This seals the return dynamic, orienting rest toward equilibrium rather than replaying unresolved patterns. Sleep studies affirm such reflections enhance restorative cycles, clearing mental residue for deeper coherence. These practices, morning breaths, thoughtful responses, body anchoring, intentional pauses, evening gratitude, form a tapestry of embodiment, attention hygiene that maintains inner stability. No grand gestures required, only consistent micro-choices compounding like expertise in any craft. A pianist's daily scales yield concert mastery. These anchors yield embodied coherence, where density's forge refines without overwhelming. Feel this integration settling. Coherence isn't abstract. It's breath in traffic, posture in meetings, pause amid noise. The inversion lives here, in ordinary moments, stabilizing participation through presence. Daily life becomes the ground for return, one choice at a time. Gentle, compounding, whole. Chapter 9, Seal Initiation. We have traveled together through the layers now, beginning in the quiet signals of the body, settling into stillness, gently questioning the edges of the familiar narrative, recognizing the structural design of containment, unfolding the pre-cosmic architecture, correlating its patterns to personal experience, inverting identity toward inward participation, and grounding that participation in daily micro-choices. Each step has been deliberate, designed to orient rather than overwhelm, to stabilize rather than destabilize. This final moment serves as a gentle seal, a quiet affirmation of the coherence that has been present all along. There is no dramatic threshold to cross, no urgent call to action. The architecture does not demand proof or performance. It simply continues to unfold, patient and steady. If, in the course of this listening, something inside you has settled a little deeper, if the homesickness softened, if a familiar signal felt, recognized if the weight of separation eased even slightly, then this is the moment to acknowledge it, not to the world as a spectacle, but to yourself as orientation. If this resonates, simply type in the comments below exactly these words: I awaken. That is all. No elaboration is needed, no explanation required. It is a quiet log, a private declaration recorded in the architecture itself. Your system noting that recognition has occurred, that bandwidth has widened just enough to register the larger flow. One person's quiet "I awaken" carries no more or less weight than another's. It is not a contest or a status. It is simply an honest marker of alignment, like a compass needle settling toward north after turbulence. If nothing stirs at this moment, that too is coherent. The invitation remains open, today, tomorrow, years from now, without pressure or deadline. Coherence does not arrive on a schedule. It persists beneath every layer, waiting patiently for acknowledgement. Deeper chambers of understanding are always available when the system is ready, never forced, never withdrawn. You are not required to become anything more than you already are. You are not asked to transcend this density or escape its curriculum. You are simply invited to remember that you are participating, here, now, in the same equilibrium that birthed galaxies, that holds the stars in place, that pulses in your breath. Take one last slow breath, in and out. Feel the body settle, the mind quiet, the heart steady. This is not the end of a journey. It is a pause in an ongoing return. The silence before the first light has never left you. It is the ground you stand on, the space you breathe in, the coherence you already are. You are whole. You are present. And that is enough. If the resonance lingers, leave your quiet note below. I awaken. We will meet again in the next descent, whenever the timing aligns.